Years ago, I had a professor at BYU when I told him my business idea years ago, and he kind of chuckled at me and he said, "You know what? You're not going to make that work."
Welcome to Beyond the Game. I am so happy to have Nick Greer here. A couple of years ago when I heard about you, Nick, I was intrigued with what you were doing. And I've known Nick from afar because of his parents. And so welcome to Beyond the Game,
Thank
Nick.
you. Let's go. I love it.
I love this too. Thank you for taking the time. Nick Greer is the founder of Spylt Brands, and if you're a BYU fan, you've heard of the Spylt bar. I have a preference because I don't know why, but I like the Spylt Puffs, and I think I'm keeping them afloat just from. But what's your preference? Now you've also got a third brand that I'm familiar with. You've got Spylt Bar, Spylt Puffs, and now Spylt.
Yeah.
Tell us about your product here.
Which one?
Whichever one's your favorite.
And I apologize. I didn't realize there's going to be a plug for these products. What are my favorites? It just depends on the mood. Depends on the mood. The morning, it's always a puff.
Mine too.
Right now, it's coconut. It's a coconut puff. Right before I walked in here, it was a cookie dough. And about 10 a.m., it was a Spylt chocolate milk. So I kind of live off it. So I have issues. I actually have issues.
My wife thinks I have issues. I read, in some of your propaganda or advertising, it said you have great nutritional profile, and I believe that.
Not me personally, but you're saying the actual
the Spylt brands, Spylt bar,
the product itself.
The product, and I'm not intending this to be a pure plug on your product, but actually it is because I'll buy boxes of the Spylt Puffs, and my wife calls it candy. Yeah. So will you, for my wife's benefit, for my benefit, so I can defend myself, tell us about this nutritional profile so I can defend myself that this is really good for me.
Let the wrappers and the macros speak for themselves.
There you go.
The taste speak for themselves. But listen, it's great. They're healthy, good for you, low in calories, sugar, high in protein. It's just a great snack. It's a great functional snack, and I'm glad you enjoy. I think you're like one of 3 customers, so thank you for supporting.
One of 3 customers. I told you I was keeping them afloat. But seriously, we were traveling. My aunt passed away, and there was a memorial in California, in actually Turlock, Stanislaus County, the Central Valley. So we're driving from Sacramento down there, and we of course stopped at some convenience stores, and I was super impressed because I've always just assumed the Spylt bar was more of a Utah product or a regional product. There were Spylt bars in Turlock, California.
Yeah,
if you get to Turlock, you've made it, I think.
I think we've arrived. If we get to Blythe, we've definitely arrived. But no, it's don't be surprised when you do see it in certain stores and the Walmarts and Costco's and Sam's and even convenience stores.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're able to curb your cravings there while on your little road trip. Sorry to hear about your aunt.
No. I mean, and she had a cancer for quite a while. So,
okay.
But Nick Greer, I remember reading about your involvement with BYU years ago, just only a few short years ago, and I see Spylt Brands as a product that's relatively new because I enjoyed other kinds of protein bars before I became aware of Spylt. And you came up with, or you or someone, you're going to have to reveal to me, or us, how did you come up with this idea of providing for the walk-ons? And by the way, let me interrupt. A walk-on is somebody who's not on full ride scholarship or grant and aid, but is actually paying their way through school and made the football team. And so they're unlike the guys who are on scholarship.
Right.
And so a walk-on is paying their own way. And here, a business owner decides through what the new term NIL, name, image, and likeness, that the Supreme Court or somebody decided that we need to pay our college athletes, or we can pay them.
Right.
You decided to pay. Now, here I am talking too much, but Alabama.
Keep preaching. Keep that.
Alabama would pay for the most expensive quarterback and have guys like you and Ryan Smith or whoever else, who contributes to BYU in a big way, help pay for these big quarterbacks or running backs or the best defensive end or the best offensive lineman. Why did you choose, and how did you decide to choose walk-ons? That's interesting.
I would tell you why not? Why not? I mean, for us, when we saw NIL come into play, and we saw that it was going to come to fruition, and the fact that you could compensate these players for their name, image, and likeness. Of course, we actually went straight to Trevor Lawrence. We were thinking, you know what, maybe we get a quarterback.
Oh my!
Trevor Lawrence, let's go. Let's do a $500,000 deal, $1 million deal. And truth be told, we started going down that path, and I felt sick. It didn't feel right. And I'm like, why would we do that? That's ridiculous. And now we're going to go compete with everyone else, and we're going to be one of many as opposed to one of one. And so as we sat down thinking through this and talking through this with a good friend of mine who was actually working at BYU at the time, one of the things he said was Kalani's dream was for the walk-ons. And he was constantly praying and thinking about the walk-ons. How can I help the walk-ons? And immediately I thought, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do the walk-ons.
Oh.
And what if we did one walk-on? What if we helped a walk-on? And then it turned into 5, and then it turned into 10. And then I turned to my buddy and I said, hey, listen, how many walk-ons are there? And I think at the time there were 36. There ended up being 38, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm
And you're talking about just football.
For football.
Just football.
Just football.
Right.
And so we thought, walk-ons, 36 of them. You start calculating in your mind, you're like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it.
That's a lot of money.
We're going to go help the walk-ons. In fact, we're going to help the underdogs. In fact, I think about my good friend Chad Lewis, who I think's been on this show before, and here he is, a walk-on. And
amazing.
And some of the greatest players across all collegiate sports have been actual walk-ons.
That's true.
And they're these individuals who have grit, who have fight, who have, the faith that, I can survive the next day. And I thought, that's who I want to get behind. That's who we are as a brand. That's who I felt like I am as an individual. Because years ago, I had a professor at BYU when I told him my business idea years ago, and he kind of chuckled at me and he said, you know what? You're not going to make that work. And it's not going to be successful.
Is this like Built Brands, your idea of business?
No. This is while I was at school.
Okay. But you didn't, that wasn't your dream.
No.
Okay.
And it was another business that we ended up selling off and building up, and it was great. But he told me that it wasn't going to be successful.
That's why he's in academia.
Yeah.
And
well, I don't know.
I'm sorry. No.
But 8.5 years later, we sold that business. And I have to tell you, maybe this is like terrible to say, but that's Toby Keith's song, How Do You Like Me Now? And I was thinking, I wanted to sing it to that professor and sing it to that man, but I didn't do it. And I thought, I felt like the underdog when I was fighting, when everyone else told me I couldn't do it. $2,000 in the bank, 2 little kids, you can't build a business. The walk-ons are of the same kind of genre and the same type of feel. And so let's go help the walk-ons, that underdog.
That is uniquely inspiring. And again, Alabama and Ohio State are probably really worried about how do we pay that top quarterback the most money of all.
Yeah, but listen, you got to remember, Mike, this is like, the problem is we think about the individual so often, but in life, it's about the team.
It's about the team. Football is.
It is the team, and you know this from experience. So for us, I'm like, I don't want to go after the individual. This is about how do we lift the team.
Right.
And if we lift from the bottom up, everyone else is going to be lifted up, and they're only going to improve across the board. So let's go do that. We're going to have greater impact doing that than by just the one.
It's interesting. You got inspiration from that professor who told you, hey, it's not going to work, right? It was interesting to me because a fellow teammate opened up his locker door. And back then we had double door lockers in the football field. And this young man became one of the most famous football players at BYU, Clay Brown. But Clay Brown had a piece of paper taped inside the door of his locker. And I asked him, because it had a whole bunch of names, like 40 different names. I said, Clay, I mean, what are those names up there for?
Yeah.
Those are all the people who told me I couldn't do it.
Really? Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I mean, and I got more inspiration from the momentum of people saying, oh, Mike, you can do it. You can do it,
Yeah.
But he got that inspiration, and apparently you did too. And you wanted to sing a Toby Keith song.
It's terrible. I know.
I love it.
It shows you how weak I am.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. It doesn't. It shows you that you have that determination to overcome. That's good. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Well,
I love that. So we know why the walk-on deal, and I love that.
Yeah.
You didn't feel right about that. I mean, about the idea of Trevor Lawrence, the one. And so you thought, and I think they call that egalitarian, and in churches and in organizations frequently, our Savior talked about, leave the 99 and go get the one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's fun. That's a good story. Spylt has sponsored BYU and a lot of other things. You claim to be nationwide now. I think that's cool. Tell me about this Spylt thing. Did you spill something?
Is that a dad joke?
Yeah.
Yeah, is it?
I'm sorry.
Good. It was pretty
It's
good.
a bad dad
pretty
joke.
good.
Yeah,
it's pretty
I'm
good.
sorry. Everyone hates me now.
No, it's so good. Listen, it's Spylt is a caffeinated chocolate milk.
SPYLT. I like that.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we're super excited. We just launched that in March, and it's been a lot of fun.
I've seen it in some stores, but I want to regress because I like your Spylt brand. It's good. I like it. But my favorite puff is that cookie dough.
Yeah.
Why? Because it has those little crunchy things on the top. Nick, can never find it.
Go to Sam's Club.
Sam's Club.
Uh-huh.
Well, can't you get it to Costco?
No, with different flavors in Costco.
Okay.
Politics.
Excuse me.
It's a game. We got to be careful. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's great. You off different products, different box sizes, everything.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. For a relatively new company, you guys have chosen to contribute and did in a big way to BYU.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how we as a fan base, and so I'm going to look for comments in what we do here on the podcast, but people like you, if we all contributed, the Widow's Mite, for example, and you're giving a lot more than the Widow's Mite, but if people like me and others would also contribute and come into our beloved BYU Cougar program.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting how much apparently money has flown into our basketball program. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm making assumptions here that I have no knowledge at all, but Ryan Smith owns the Utah Jazz, and Danny Ainge is right there as his general manager. So I assume that there might be some mutually beneficial things about contributing to the BYU basketball program. And it maybe is a more efficient way to donate money because you only have 15 or 20 people on the team, whereas in football they have 123.
Yeah.
And football's an important sport.
Right.
Do you have an opinion about how we as a fan base can give our Widow's Mite to the program? That, when you talk about the law of large numbers, if 10,000 or even 100,000, we put 60-something thousand people in the stadium. Yeah. If that many people were to contribute $5, $10, $25, I don't know, a month or whatever, it would be significant. What's your idea that we as smaller fans can contribute?
I think it's a bit unfair to say smaller fans, larger fans. I mean, those who
it's
have
relative.
Listen, I know it is, but at the end of the day, it's just I think we all love BYU. I mean, if you're listening to this show, you love the Cougs, and you love everything about them. You love the sports. You love what it stands for. You love the message that it portrays worldwide, and it's really uniting people and bringing them unto Christ in a very unique way through athletics. And with that, I think this greater cause that we're all part of, we can contribute whatever your heart and however way your means that you feel like I can contribute. I remember years ago when I was newly married, and a good friend of mine's like, when I make X amount of money, I'm going to actually start giving back in this way. And when I make this much money, I'm going to be able to start, this type of foundation. And I'm like, and I asked him, I said, well, why are you waiting until you make that much money? Why aren't you creating the habit today? And so even if it is $5, $10, $25, I think it's a matter of, if we as a fan base, if we love the Cougs, then let's donate, let's contribute. I think there is a little bit of a confusion, and there's a little bit of this unknown kind of wild, wild west territory when it comes to NIL. And people don't know, like, well, do I contribute to the one athlete? Do I contribute to the collective? How do I contribute? And I would say just contribute and just give back. And give back, maybe it's a part of a cause where you rally your friends together and we want to give back to go put, a new golf cart, for the football team to transport them from all the recruits or whatever it may be.
Sure.
And so you're like, that's what I want to do. And I want to slap our name on it. And it's like, great, do that. But there's so many different opportunities that we can contribute as a fan base. But with basketball, why is there such momentum with basketball?
Yeah.
And why do we see
Do you have an opinion, or do you have an insider information?
An opinion,
Okay.
1,000% opinion. Success is a cure-all. And when we seek success, we want to be on that success bandwagon. And it's fun. It's fun to be winning. We as BYU fans, we love it when we go 3-0 and we think we're going to win the national championship, and we are off to the races, and then we are deflated. When we go 5-0 and then we lose the rest of the games, we're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Our lives are over. And but I would tell you right now, basketball is seeing success, and people want to contribute to success and things that are successful. It's exciting. It's fun. It's new. It's innovative. It's changing what we've always been doing and doing it a little bit differently and doing it better. I want to be part of that.
Absolutely.
I want to be part of that. That's what's so exciting.
It's interesting because we're taping this here at the end of July.
Right.
Probably won't come out until September sometime. And so we will already be in the football program year. And there are little signs of our football program getting a little bit better. And going into the Big 12 is a gigantic step.
Yeah, it is.
For the football program. I was at a program last week, and Tyler Batty came up and introduced himself to me.
He's such a good dude. I love Tyler. Yeah.
Good kid.
Yeah.
He promised us, and I was with Mark Wilson and Brent Johnson, Danny Hansen, Tom Bell. These are offensive linemen, these last couple of guys, and Scott Nielsen. And Tyler Batty promised us 20. All right, so I'm making this, official. He promised us 20 sacks this year.
I love it.
And yeah, he's a big, strong, athletic young man.
But you know what I love about that comment right there in that story is the fact that Tyler Batty can control what he can control. He didn't sit there and promise how many wins that BYU was going to win. What he did is what I'm going to do is this, and he set that goal. And I love that about Tyler is he set the goal, and he's like, I'm going to go achieve that, and I'm going to contribute every which way I can as a member of this squad, as a member of this team, and this is what I can go control. And if every player on BYU football does that, can you imagine how powerful this group of boys will be? That's when it gets fun. So if we had 123 Tyler Batties, then game on.
Who are willing to set those kind of goals.
Absolutely. Watch out, Utah.
You watch out. Here we come.
Yeah, we need 123 TBs right there.
I was super impressed. Strong young men.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of other young men there too that
so good. I love
looked
that.
like bright-eyed and, well, I won't say bushy-tailed, but they're a good.
They're so good.
They look
Such
like
good
good young men.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've been one of those who's been supporting them. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
It's an interesting thing because this week we'll also be talking to some other young men and not as young men who are really good golfers.
Mm-hmm.
So I found out today tell us a little bit about your arm. You have, you look like you're getting ready for the upcoming season because you have tape on your right elbow.
Listen, when you're not athletic, you got to somehow look like it. So
no, you're not a 7 handicap if you're not athletic. You have to have good time.
Listen, talk to my dad about that because I don't think he thinks there's any athletic abilities in our family. But no, love golf, so good. I think you've got B coming on, Brian Santiago coming on the show, and that man is a machine on the golf course. And
really,
you need to talk to him about golf.
Now, so I don't know what it is about quarterbacks in football and basketball players that they always tend to be good golfers.
Yeah.
What I've golfed with Danny Ainge.
Yeah. Oh, he is so good.
And he is so good, but he made me better.
But do you know what makes him so good?
What?
The mind game. Oh, yeah. I had a match with him last year. I got mutilated. And I got beat up so bad by Danny. And it was just, he sat there and he said he didn't mean to do it, but he kept calling me my dad's name. And it was messing.
Does he know your dad, Gil?
100%. Yeah. And so he kept saying Gil. And I was sitting there, I'm like, I'm Nick. He's like, yeah. Okay, Gil. And I like a couple weeks later, I said something to him. He goes, no, did I do that? I didn't realize I did. He doesn't even realize.
He's Michael Jordan in sheep's clothing.
Oh, my gosh. He's so good. And it just messed with me the whole time. I mean, from the first shot out of the first tee box, I was just like, I'm done. I'm totally done. I needed Craig Manning there from BYU to help me with my sports psychology, to help me with my that mind game, because he had me. He had me from the first tee box.
That's funny. But it's interesting. I want to go back to your choice. This isn't regarding Built Bar as much as your choice to support the walk-ons, because again, the leverage that a big program like Ohio State would bring on Trevor Lawrence, and then you and Kalani's dream of helping these walk-ons. I just think that's so interesting. And then what happened immediately thereafter? Do you remember?
Which part?
I'm talking about the NCAA when they because to me the biggest irony, because all right, I'm an NCAA athlete in the 1970s and early 1980s.
Yeah.
The NCAA was all about us not getting money.
Right. Of course.
And the only times in the year when you could have a job, because maybe your school's going to help you with that job, was when you were out of school.
Yeah.
So the whole NCAA idea was they're not giving an athlete money.
Yeah.
And now they came out and they argued with you. Didn't they try to sue BYU or you that your NIL program offering money to walk-ons wasn't the intent of the program? They really wanted you to bring on Trevor Lawrence?
No, I mean, listen.
What happened? What did I hear about that?
There may or may not have been some type of an investigation. I mean, that's...
So you can't really talk.
Well, I don't even know, but I don't know much about it. I really, at the end of the day, so we had.
Why would they be against walk-ons getting NIL money?
I don't know. Shortly after this came down, HBO Real Sports contacted us and ended up doing an interview with me and bringing their video crew down there, and the interviewer, he was fantastic. We spent the whole day together, and I'm telling you, he was trying to pry the entire time. On this show for HBO Real Sports. And what was classic about it was he was trying to get me just to poke at NCAA, poke at him. He wanted me to poke at the bear, but he was giving me the stick to try to poke at them.
Of course.
And I'm just like, I'm not going to poke. And so I would switch things up and answer things completely different than the way that he was asking them. And even the video crew afterwards, like, I've never seen anyone not answer any of the questions that the interviewer was trying to ask. I'm like, because I don't want to poke the bear right now.
Yeah.
Because I knew there were things that were going on and we had to be very sensitive and very careful. But at the end of the day, it's unfortunate the way that the NCAA, I think, and I'm going to be bold to say that the way that they've handled things, the way that they control, but yet it is very messy right now when it comes to NIL. I'm not in any type of school or part of the faculty, or like, I don't have an in, so I don't know. This is just me as a fan. You and me sitting here as fans, right? So you and I both know the same amount when it comes to this. From my observation, it's unfortunate about how much control they have, but then it's unfortunate about what the direction NIL is actually going and where it's going and how it's changing the sport. And that to me, as a fan, is difficult to watch. So is that why maybe there's not as much talk about football? I don't know. Do we read much about football in general? Like NCAA, I don't know. I mean, I'm not seeing as much yet. Now let's get to the end of August and we can see, and it'll continue to be fun. But it is changing, and we as a fan base are seeing that it's changing, and so many are on the sidelines waiting to see what does it change towards, and how do I support it?
It's interesting, isn't it? And isn't the most recent, I forget what the title of, I forget if it was Congress or the NCAA was considering schools actually because
you mean their employees or could carry on?
Yeah, that they were gonna name the football players as employers as employees of the school.
Correct.
Because right now it's it's a weird triangle. Right now you've got the school, you've got the basketball, the soccer, the football, whatever team it is and these athletes are enabled to get paid for their name, image, and likeness, which means they should get remunerate, whatever, for who they are.
Yeah.
On the athletic field or off the athletic field. And so the school is theoretically uninvolved, or maybe not, but it puts the...
Did you say maybe not?
They're not supposed to be.
Oh, okay.
Right? Is it? So here I'm getting off on into areas that I'm very unfamiliar with. But my understanding is that a corporation, a business, a collective gets to choose players, athletes.
Yeah, but that's changing.
Right.
Right. In 2025, I mean, that is changing.
And that's where the school is going to control it.
Mm-hmm. Which is great.
Much better.
It should be.
Because
and then we're much more like the wild west is now being settled, and now the school's in control, and so the school has to figure out the dynamics of how to work through that.
So heretofore, it's been this wild woolly west where the school can actually be totally uninvolved between donor to Alabama who wants to hire this new quarterback for $1 million a year.
Or 13 million or whatever it may be.
Whatever it may be.
Right, if you're Miami. Yep.
Now, if I'm the quarterback, all I want is my 13, cookie dough.
I'll work on that. I think I heard you have 6 months left of eligibility.
So I'm trying to get that back. Tom almost tried. Yeah. But, at one point I ran a 3.440.
Okay.
I'm probably at 3.4?
13.43.
I was at a 4.3.
3.4 would be pretty fast.
Yeah, 4. I was at a 4.3.
Yeah.
40. Believe it, they won't believe that. They're going to say, no, Lacey, you're lying. But now I'm probably at 13 points.
Okay.
You're right. Now
we're in the same club. It's good.
I'll have to. But okay, so that's a good thing that the school will now have a little more control over how that money is allocated.
Yeah.
Good.
I think
that's what it looks like.
What it looks like.
Nick Greer, Built Bar, entrepreneur. You've started other businesses. What else can you share with our Beyond the Game podcast as far as stories or things that have enlightened you or inspired you? I neglected to share that you are a stake president in the Alpine West. Not the West Stake, the Alpine West Stake. Mm-hmm. And so you probably know Bronco Mendenhall. He was in that stake, right?
Yeah, he's great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Tell us what your impressions, what you'd like to share with us, the most inspirational thing, if you'd like to share, of your experiences with BYU or what you're doing now.
Listen, let's not bore these fans. As far as
it won't be boring. It's your story. Yeah, we want to suss out the story.
As a little kid, I remember coming up from Arizona, and we'd stay, up here in Utah twice a year, primarily winter and then summer. And I remember driving back, and we leave Provo area, and you can see the Y on the mountain. And I'd sit in the very, very back and on top of all the suitcases of the Suburban. And I'd look out that back window and I'd just watch that Y get smaller and smaller and smaller. And to me, as a little boy, I loved everything that represented BYU. Anything that had the Y on it, I wanted to be part of. Going to that Washington Huskies BYU game when I was in third grade and getting smoked, and remember being there in Washington and yelling out the window, "Go BYU!" and the guys I was with hurrying, rolling up the window, saying, "You can't do that, not around here." And I'm like, "Go BYU!" And I just being part of Cougar Nation is a sweet blessing. I would tell you some of my most choicest friendships and relationships have come because of this school, have come because of the athletics, have come because the camaraderie and the friendship that have been enjoyed because of the sports and the sporting events. These good boys, these players, all athletes alike that come through the school. What a blessing to be able to be part of that.
Yeah.
And I see that Y in my mind fading when I was a little boy. But in reality, I never want that to fade. And I think for all of us, we never want that Y and that love and that passion that we have for the Cougs to ever fade and to ever fade away. And so however we as a Cougar fan base, as a Cougar Nation can contribute, can be part of, can have hope and bring, hope to maybe when a team is down, to be positive in the way that we lift them up and drive them to becoming better tomorrow, the next week, the next game, incrementally. I think, I even see on Cougar boards and in other ways of just how down we can be as fans. And I'm thinking, why don't we play this game a little bit differently than maybe other fans and fan bases play it? And let's play this in a way where, like, all right, we as Cougar Nation, we're going to lift. And we're going to never let that Y fade out of our minds, out of our hearts. And we're only going to make it get bigger and bigger and bigger, and let the entire world know what we stand for and what we're fighting for at the end of the day. It's not for these, for football. Really, at the end of the day, I believe it's bringing people into Christ. And it's our message as disciples of Jesus Christ for us to go, all right, this is helping us get our message out to build our brand as far as BYU is concerned. And then we, as disciples of Jesus Christ, that's how we have to act. That's what we're building. That's what we're all about. That's what we stand for. So if your heart ever tells you, like, all right, I want to contribute in this way, go contribute. All right, I'm going to post more of a positive comment rather than a negative comment.
Good point.
Post it.
Yes.
Be part of that. And that's Cougar Nation. That's what we're about. That's what we need to stand for.
I like that. Well spoken by the words of someone who has given and who gives a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Nick.
No,
Greer.
don't say just Nick. Yeah, just Nick. Yeah.
But no, Nick, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And well-spoken words.
Thank you. Appreciate you.